The sun was setting over Jericho, casting long golden shadows across its mighty walls. The fortress city stood proud, with towers piercing the sky and gates sealed shut against any enemy. Yet behind its strength, fear was brewing. Rumors had spread like wildfire. The Red Sea had parted for the Israelites. Mighty kings Sihon and Og had fallen before them. Now, Israel's vast camp rested across the Jordan, just miles away. Inside Jericho, hearts melted with terror. But in one house built into the wall of the city a woman watched and listened differently. Her name was Rahab. Rahab was known across Jericho not for her holiness, but for her profession. She was a harlot, a woman surviving by means frowned upon by society. And yet, it was in her house that destiny would unfold. Her inn was more than a brothel, it was also a place of whispers, secrets, and travelers' tales. If you wanted to know the truth of the world outside Jericho's gates, you went to Rahab. That evening, as the night fires flickered and laughter from drunken soldiers echoed through the streets, Rahab sat quietly by her window. Her mind replayed the stories she had overheard. The God dried up the Red Sea. The Amorite kings could not withstand them. Who can stand against such a people? For the first time in years, Rahab felt something stirring within her: fear, yes, but also hope. What if the God of Israel was real? What if he offered more than the idols of stone Jericho worshipped? That same night, as the city gates closed, two men slipped silently into Jericho. They were spies sent by Joshua to scout the land, especially Jericho. Cloaked and cautious, they moved through the bustling alleys until they came to Rahab's house. Perhaps they chose it because strangers often passed unnoticed there. Perhaps it was providence. Rahab greeted them warily, but something in their presence struck her: these were not ordinary travelers. Their eyes carried both caution and purpose. She welcomed them in, offering food and drink, while secretly her heart pounded. She knew who they were. But secrets never stay hidden for long. Word reached Jericho's king. Two men from Israel have entered the house of Rahab the harlot. Soldiers marched through the streets and banged on her door. Bring out the men who have come to you. They are spies. Rahab froze. Her mind raced. This was the moment. She could betray them, earn favor with the king, and perhaps wealth. Or she could protect them, risking her life, because she believed in the God. Quickly, she led the spies up to her flat rooftop, where stalks of flax were spread out to dry. She hid them beneath the stalks just as the soldiers stormed into her house. Rahab stood at the door, her heart pounding. Yes, the men came to me, she admitted. But I did not know where they were from. At dusk, when the gate was about to close, they left. Pursue them quickly, you may catch them. The soldiers, deceived, rushed toward the Jordan road. The gates shut behind them. Silence returned. Rahab climbed back to the roof. The spies emerged from their hiding place, dust clinging to their cloaks. They stared at her, astonished. Why would she risk her life for them? It was then Rahab spoke words that would echo through history. I know that the Lord has given you this land. Terror has fallen on us, for we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea, and how you defeated the kings of the Amorites. When we heard it, our hearts melted. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with conviction. This harlot from Jericho, looked down upon by her people, was confessing faith in the God of Israel. Then she pleaded, now swear to me by the Lord, since I have dealt kindly with you, that you will deal kindly with my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all who belong to them. Deliver our lives from death. The spies exchanged glances. This was no ordinary woman. They swore an oath. Our lives for yours, if you do not tell this business of ours. When the Lord gives us the land, we will spare you and all who are in your house. Rahab led them to her window, which opened onto the outside wall. She handed them a rope to climb down. Before they left, the spies gave her a sign. Bind this scarlet cord in your window, the one through which you let us down. Gather your family inside your house. If anyone leaves your door, his blood is on his own head. But if anyone with you inside is harmed, his blood shall be on ours. Rahab held the scarlet cord in her hands, a simple rope, yet it became a symbol of salvation. Her faith was now bound to it. She tied it in her window immediately. The night air of Jericho was thick with silence after the two spies slipped into Rahab's house. Outside, the city's gates had been sealed shut. Soldiers scoured the streets with torches, searching for strangers. But inside Rahab's chamber, something far more eternal was unfolding. Rahab had hidden the two Hebrew spies beneath stalks of flax on her rooftop. The faint smell of drying reeds clung to the room, mingling with the tension in the air. She whispered, "I know who you are. I know where you come from." The men stiffened, ready to defend themselves if needed. But Rahab's tone was not one of accusation, it was filled with trembling awe. "Your God," she continued, "is not like the gods of Jericho. We've heard of him. The sea he dried up for you, the kings you crushed across the Jordan. Our hearts melted when we heard. No courage is left in anyone because of you. The Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on the earth beneath." Her words pierced the silence. For the first time, the spies realized that Yahweh's reputation had already preceded them. Terror gripped Jericho before Israel even marched. Then Rahab did something unthinkable. She pleaded, "Now, swear to me by the Lord, since I've shown you kindness, that you will show kindness to my family. Spare my father, my mother, my brothers and sisters, all who belong to them. Save us from death." The spies exchanged a look. This was no ordinary request. But the hand of God was in this moment. "Our lives for yours," one whispered, "if you do not betray us. When the Lord gives us the land, we will deal kindly and faithfully with you." Rahab's heart pounded. She had risked everything, her reputation, her safety, her very life, for a chance to align herself with the God of Israel. But how could she be sure? How could she know that when the walls fell, her family would remain untouched? The spies gave her a sign. "Bind this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down. Bring your family into your house and do not let them leave. If anyone steps outside, their blood will be on their own head. But anyone with you inside marked by this cord will be spared." Rahab touched the cord. Scarlet red, a streak of blood-like color against the pale wall. It was simple, almost too simple, but it carried a promise. She nodded. "Let it be as you say." That very night, she tied the cord in her window, its crimson thread fluttering faintly in the moonlight. The spies slipped into the shadows, scaling down the city wall by the rope Rahab provided. They vanished into the hills, hidden for 3 days until their pursuers gave up the search. But Rahab stayed awake long after they had gone, staring at the scarlet cord. It was more than a rope. It was a covenant. And deep inside, though she could not yet understand fully, Rahab sensed something sacred about that scarlet thread. It was not just a mark of safety, it was a shadow of salvation. A crimson sign that one day, blood itself would cover the guilty, and mercy would triumph over judgment. Jericho's nights were often filled with laughter, music, and the sound of merchants closing their shops. But on that night, the air was different. The people of Jericho tried to carry on with their routines, yet fear sat heavily upon their hearts. The walls that once symbolized pride now felt like a prison. Every sound, every gust of wind brushing against the stones, made them glance nervously at the horizon. Rahab stood by her window, the scarlet cord dangling visibly outside. By day, it looked simple enough, a strip of colored rope, unremarkable to anyone passing by. But by night, under the light of the moon, it looked alive like a streak of blood marking her house for destiny. Her family gathered close. Her father, usually firm and unshaken, sat silently, wringing his hands. Her mother whispered prayers to the God she had only recently begun to believe in. Her brothers shifted anxiously, pacing the floor. Rahab spoke softly. "Do not fear. The God of Israel is not like the gods of Jericho. He keeps his promises. As long as we remain in this house, we are safe." Yet even as she reassured them, her own heart trembled. She thought of the spies, of their oath, and of the unseen God who had led his people out of Egypt with power. Would he truly remember her, a woman of shame, now covered by a scarlet cord of faith? As dawn broke, Jericho stirred. Suddenly, a strange sound pierced the air, the low, haunting blast of a ram's horn. The Israelites had come. The people of Jericho rushed to the walls and peered out, expecting an immediate attack. But what they saw bewildered them. The army of Israel, arranged in perfect order, marched around the city in silence. Only the priests blew their trumpets. No arrows were shot. No ladders were raised. No siege engines rolled forward. Around and around they went. Once, twice, a full circle around the city. Then, just as strangely as they came, they returned to their camp. Confusion rippled through Jericho. Some mocked, others trembled, but Rahab's eyes widened in recognition. She whispered to her family, "This is not the work of men. This is the work of God. He surrounds Jericho as he surrounded Egypt. He is waiting, testing, preparing." The next day, the same thing happened. The trumpets, the silence, the circling. Day after day for 6 days. Each morning, Jericho awoke to the same sight. Each night, fear grew heavier. And through it all, Rahab kept her eyes fixed on the scarlet cord. On the 7th day, Rahab's household awoke to the sound of trumpets louder than ever. This time, the Israelites marched around the city not once, but 7 times. The ground seemed to tremble beneath their steady footsteps. Inside Rahab's house, no one dared move. They clung to one another, waiting. Her youngest brother whispered, "Will today be the day?" Rahab answered, her voice strong despite her pounding heart. "Yes, today the Lord will show his power." As the priests completed the 7th circuit, the trumpets blared long and fierce. Then, for the first time, the Israelite army shouted as one. And Jericho's mighty walls, those towering, impenetrable fortresses of stone, quivered like dry clay. With a roar that split the sky, they crumbled, collapsing outward in a cloud of dust and thunder. Screams filled the air. The city was in chaos. But Rahab's house stood firm. Through the haze, Rahab saw soldiers rushing into the city, swords flashing. She held her family close, whispering, "Do not leave. Do not move. The scarlet cord will save us." Moments later, 2 familiar figures appeared through the smoke, the very spies she had once hidden. Their eyes locked with hers, and recognition lit their faces. One called out, "Bring your family. The Lord has kept his word. You are safe." Rahab's family stepped into the light, trembling but unharmed. The soldiers of Israel shielded them as Jericho burned. Behind them, the cries of the city echoed a reminder of judgment, but also of mercy. For in the midst of destruction, one household had been marked for salvation. Not by wealth, not by power, but by a scarlet cord of faith. Rahab left Jericho that day with nothing but her family and her faith. She walked away from the ashes of her past life and into a new identity as one who trusted the God of Israel. What she did not yet know was how far her story would stretch. That the scarlet cord would not just save her family, it would tie her into the very lineage of kings and, one day, into the story of a Savior whose blood would redeem the world. Her mark of salvation was not forgotten.